Hello, everyone, and welcome to this important episode of Ignition Time. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda, and welcome to our channel. Please click the like button and subscribe if you learn something new from this video. If you don't know anything about me, this right here is a little bit of information about me. You'll learn how I was able to overcome the cycle of poverty and live the American dream. And my goal is to help you live the American dream because I have the fortune, the honor, the privilege of living the American dream. But unfortunately, millions of our fellow Americans don't have the opportunity to live the American dream, in large part because of inaction from the government, because of inaction, because of the constant fighting between the Republicans and the Democrats, who have not been able to come together to try and help renters who are facing eviction, who have not been able to come together to pass an extension of the unemployment benefits, which I believe is crucial specifically for those who need help the most. Not everyone needs an extension of unemployment benefits, but there are many, in fact, there are millions of our fellow Americans who need an extension of unemployment benefits. In fact, individuals are now facing a financial cliff because the unemployment benefits and the rental assistance is both expiring at the same time. In fact, the Supreme Court has actually chimed in and overruled the President of the United States. This right here on your screen is a headline from the Washington Post. Millions of Americans face a financial cliff as the eviction ban and unemployment aid lapse amid Washington inaction. In fact, a critical Supreme Court setback in the past couple of days has illustrated the limits of President Biden's power, even in Washington, D.C., that is dominated by the Democrats. In fact, I'll quote from the Washington Post article, "The clock is now ticking for millions of Americans who are now set to face a series of stinging financial hardships in a matter of days, with the loss of federal protections against eviction and looming cuts to their weekly unemployment checks." What is happening, folks, is that the Supreme Court found that the Biden administration's recent eviction moratorium was unconstitutional. And this basically leaves the White House absolutely powerless. The White House has no way to issue a new directive to protect the 6.4 million households that are not able to pay rent. In fact, millions of Americans have also struggled to get federal rental aid from state and local programs that have been allocated tens of billions of dollars from past stimulus packages. In fact, many of those families, I'm talking millions of our fellow Americans, could face additional financial hardships because the unemployment benefits are scheduled to end on the 6th of September. By the way, I have done another video about this. The unemployment benefits will actually end on the week ending the 5th of September. Now, Congress has repeatedly extended these unemployment benefits, but President Biden and many Democrats have tried to renew them ahead of their planned expiration on September 6th, but they were simply not able to do it. This is going to result in a financial cliff for 7.5 million Americans who will not be able to put food on the table, to keep the lights on, and to pay rent. Now, this could result in a shockwave for the economy, and it could result in a major political problem for the Democrats. In fact, President Biden has been trying to do as much as he can on his own, but without the support of Congress, his hands are tied. In fact, here's a quote from Congresswoman Cori Bush, the Democrat from Missouri, and she said this is an important quote. She said, "They will have a tougher time. They're already having a tough time because this has been a back and forth. I can't sit back and wait." What she's trying to do is pressure the White House to reissue eviction protections. Now, this is important. This is a quote from Gene Sperling, who is overseeing all the stimulus efforts from the White House. When Gene was asked about the end of the eviction ban, Gene said this: "We're just going to be pressing states and localities to streamline, use simpler applications that favor self-attestation over delay, pass their own moratoriums, and fund court efforts at eviction diversion." So basically, Gene is saying, hey, we need states to step up and help local residents because we, the federal government, have given money to states. We need states to step up and help their residents. Now, Marty Walsh, who is the U.S. Labor Secretary, and Janet Yellen, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, actually wrote this in a letter to Congress last week. They want states to use $350 billion in local aid that was authorized under the American Rescue Plan. They wrote this: "We still have more work to do, but the trend is clear. Thanks to the grit and ingenuity of the American people, and with the federal government executing on a plan to bring our economy back, our nation is getting back to work." So you can clearly see there's a major initiative from the White House. In fact, in a speech earlier this week, President Biden did say that the sum total of those efforts were powerful, saying that the spending had put the U.S. recovery at a pole position, leading the world's advanced economies. President Biden said this: "Our economy has added 4 million jobs in my first 6 months in office. Economic growth is up to the fastest it's been, the fastest rate in 40 years, and unemployment is coming down." But folks, the moratoriums present a significant challenge, not only for millions of our fellow Americans who are not able to pay rent, who are behind on their rent, but folks, this is a big political challenge for the Democrats as well, because these moratoriums have faced significant legal challenges from landlords who have argued in multiple lawsuits in different parts of the country that these eviction moratoriums are unconstitutional. So the Supreme Court has actually said, yep, it's unconstitutional, which supports the landlords and hurts renters. This defeat actually came in the past 48 hours. In a 6-3 decision, the Chief Justices of the United States acknowledged the benefits of the protections, but they found that, I quote, "Our system does not permit agencies to act unlawfully, even in pursuit of desirable ends." They said that Congress should decide whether the public interest merits further action here. So, folks, it's very clear that there's a lot of pressure on the Democrats to try and extend the eviction moratorium. In fact, here's a letter that I was referring to earlier from Congresswoman Cori Bush, and many other Democrats actually signed this. Let's show you this letter on your screen, addressed to House Speaker Pelosi and the Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. We write, "In vehement opposition to yesterday's Supreme Court decision, which struck down the CDC's most recent targeted eviction moratorium, millions of people who are currently at risk for eviction, housing insecurity, or face becoming unhoused desperately look to their elected representatives to implement legislation that will put their health and safety first and save lives. As your fellow colleagues, we implore you to act with the highest level of urgency to advance a permanent legislative solution in a must-pass legislative vehicle to extend the life-saving federal eviction moratorium for the duration of the deadly global health crisis. We must continue to curb the spread of the Delta variant using every legislative tool at our disposal in Congress." And as you scroll down, you'll see all the members of Congress who signed this: Ayanna Pressley, Cori Bush, Jimmy Gomez, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal from Washington, and so many others. You'll see their signatures here. So you can start to see that there's a major initiative. And in fact, one of the things that really jumps out from the letter is this comment: "Millions of people who are currently at risk for eviction, housing insecurity, or face becoming unhoused desperately look to their elected representatives to implement legislation that will put their health and safety first and save lives." So there is a lot of pressure, everyone, on the White House to try and get something done. We'll have to wait and see what happens, because this is very significant. And finally, Janet Yellen and Marty Walsh also wrote this in their letter: "The temporary $300 boost in benefits will expire on September 6th as planned. As President Biden has said, the boost was always intended to be temporary, and it is appropriate for that benefit boost to expire." Folks, this means definitively that we will see the end of the $300 a week, but it also means that the White House is going to try and do something, maybe using new legislation that must pass both the House and the Senate to help with the eviction moratorium. I hope they try and do something with the unemployment benefit system as well, because our unemployment benefit system is broken. Thank you so much for watching. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. I appreciate you. That is how you can support our channel, by clicking like, by clicking subscribe, and enabling notifications if you're not a part of our family yet. Our family is growing very rapidly, and I welcome you to join our community. Just click that subscribe button below and enable notifications. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.